What's good, y'all? It's your boy BioSpider 3.0, keeping the action going with the Marvel Legends Spider-Man Retro card, Mysterio. Alright, so here we are, guys. Got him out of the package. Got a chance to pose him around a little bit. Yeah, dope figure, man. Definitely has its fair share of issues. We'll get into all of that. But at least from an aesthetic standpoint, he does look very, very nice right out of the box. Yeah, man, there's some nice things going on with this figure aesthetically that Hasbro did very well. Um, and yeah, I just wish they would do some of those things a little bit more often on their Marvel Legends figures because they could look really, really nice if they just put in a little bit more effort. But yeah, this guy, he's a bit top heavy. He does have some trouble standing up, so I've got him on the rotating display base, as you can see. I'm gonna try to get him rotating, but I'm gonna tell you right now, he's gonna fall like probably before even one full rotation, unfortunately. So, don't worry about that. I'll make sure you guys get a nice, full, 360 look at him in this review. But yeah, when I tried getting him on the turntable and turning him a few times, and he just would not stay upright. So yeah, it's his fishbowl head and the cape adds a lot of weight to his upper body, so he tends to just kind of fall over as he starts to spin. But I'll just try to get you guys at least maybe one somewhat rotation, just so you guys can see him real quick. So let's start with that. And as you can see, there he goes, right? So he falls off almost right away before he even gets one full time around. So we're not even going to waste time with the display base in this review. But I figured I'd just show you, demonstrate what I was talking about to you guys. He is unfortunately pretty top heavy. And then the design of his feet also kind of makes him, not great at standing up. But we'll get into all of that in a bit. But just taking a closer look so that we can at least see the details up close. Yeah, man, I really, really like what Hasbro did as far as the the coloring for his suit. Really, really nice. Because first of all, he's got a really nice green showing bleh, nice green going on. Hopefully that is showing up on camera. I would say in person, I mean, I've got him in the natural light right now. I would say in person, his green looks a little bit lighter maybe than what it's showing up as on camera. But it is a really nice green. It looks, definitely reminds me of like the comics. And it looks really nice. They got this black wash going throughout his suit, which really brings out the details and like the kind of quilt, as I call it, pattern of, like all these like squares, this grid kind of pattern that goes out through the green part of his suit, and it looks really, really nice overall. That definitely helps bring the suit to life a lot. The details definitely helps his sculpt stand out a lot more, which I like, and that's always good to see like a wash in figures like this. So yeah, that was one of the first things that stood out to me about this guy when I first started seeing reviews of him go up. I was like, man, that is a really nice looking Mysterio. Just because of that wash, like the wash alone really helps bring out, again, his sculpt and just like the recesses of all the grid pattern that goes throughout the green parts of his suit. I mean, that really looks great. So that's kind of like a eye catcher for sure, is having that wash applied. So that looks very dope. There was actually a release before this guy that I guess was actually technically more comic accurate, because his coloring was a little different. The green was darker on him, as well as the purples. Like his cape was a darker purple. These these eyepieces, the little diamond eyepieces at the ends of his cape, those were in purple as well. His what do you call it? These like gauntlets and gloves on him, as well as the boots, were also done in like that darker purple color. Or actually, I take that back. Sorry, they were done in a light green. They were done in like a lighter green color, like almost like a lime green. And that technically, I believe, is more accurate to like the first appearance Mysterio. I think that is actually how he was colored in. So the color scheme for that first release, I think, is technically more accurate, which I found surprising because when I saw this figure, I thought it was like the most comic accurate Mysterio I had ever seen, like as far as like the coloring and everything. But and you know, Mysterio is colored like this in the comics, but I think it did actually happen later. I think that first release that Hasbro did is actually a little more comic accurate to his first appearances. So I just wanted to mention that. But very similar figure to this one. I think it uses like a very similar body. Might not be this exact one, but it's very similar as far as like the sculpt and like you know all the yeah, everything like from the gauntlets and the boots and everything. It's a very similar figure. Um, it might read this one might reuse some parts from that one. I'm not sure, but it's a very similar looking figure. Again, it's just the coloration that's the biggest difference with that one. It has like a lot of similar things going on with the effects pieces and whatnot. But yeah, like I mentioned before, he is pretty top heavy, so the thing with this cape, so this is one of the biggest gripes I have with this figure. They didn't really handle the fishbowl and cape setup very well because he, like as I turn to the side, you can see that the cape kind of floats like basically above his chest, which is not great. And the reason for that is I'm gonna go ahead and just take his head off, his fishbowl at least, which will reveal the head underneath, which you guys can see. Get a little more close up. But yeah, you can see he's got like a translucent, like kind of light blue, kind of like aqua or turquoise type of head going on underneath, which looks cool enough. Nice sculpt, I'm not sure if it's the most accurate to Quentin Beck. I mean, I really not super. I feel like Quentin Beck has his face has always been like probably drawn different ways, especially if you're talking about like cartoons and the comics. So I'm not really, to be honest, I'm not super familiar with like what Quentin Beck looked like originally. So this could very well be very accurate to his first appearance. I'm so used to seeing Mysterio, with the fishbowl head on, and like you usually can't see his head underneath. So and plus that's how I'm gonna be, displaying him pretty much like all the time. I don't really have any real use for this head, but I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like underneath there. It is, again, like I said, a nice head sculpt. The worst thing about it though is the major, as Anthony's Custom calls it, the lollipop syndrome. So he's got a huge gap in his neck. When you lift it up, you get this huge, they hollowed out the inside of the head so much, like unnecessarily, that you get like a huge gap when he looks up. When he looks down, he gets plenty of range, but again, you got a really ugly, now like a hump in the back of his neck, like where the hinge is, and there's like just so much space back there in his head. It really doesn't look good. But this is like an older figure, and Hasbro did have a lot of figures around this time that had the so-called lollipop syndrome. So yeah, they would like hollow out the heads way too much, and it just made these very ugly gaps when you begin to articulate the head, as you see here. But because of that, I mean, he does get a lot of nice range, obviously. So on that ball peg, he can lean his head side to side very well, as you would expect. He can rotate the head full 360, no problem. And like I said, he's able to look up and down very, very well using that hinge. It just leaves a very, very ugly gap in there. So I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, that is the head underneath, and like I said, nice sculpt to it. You can, even though it's translucent plastic, you can see a lot of the details as far as like the hair strands. Really nice sculpt for the hair and the overall face. So I mean, that is pretty cool. That is like a translucent face. Obviously, he's an illusionist, so he's gonna be having some kind of mystical effects going on with his face to try to not reveal his identity. But that is pretty cool. And yeah, you can really see through towards the bottom. That's like the most see-through part, like around like his jaw area. And as you get higher up, there's more of like that color kind of filled in, so it's not as transparent anymore. But I mean, it still has that translucent quality. Like a lot of light still goes through it. So I mean, that is pretty cool. And then here's a look at the back of the figure without the cape. So yeah, he does have a peg hole in his back. And the cape, as you'll see in a minute, it does have a peg that obviously ports in right there. But there is an issue with that, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I just want you guys to see like the back of him real quick. Again, pretty nice, nicely detailed with that wash going throughout. And they kind of have like some random, shading going on right here on his back, like these kind of like black streaks. I never really noticed that in anyone's review, but yeah, I noticed that when I took the cape off of mine, that he has like these black streaks that I guess are meant to kind of highlight, you know, some of the muscle areas in his back, but I just think it looks kind of weird. It's kind of weirdly placed, if you ask me. Just looks kind of random. Not the best, you know, shading, if you ask me, but it does still look pretty good. It's a cool look. And yeah, like I said, that wash definitely helps bring out the details and just really adds to the aesthetic value of this figure a whole bunch. Having those grid lines, you know, pop out a lot more, you know, filled in with that wash, the black wash, really helps it a lot. So yeah, I just wanted you guys to see him front to back, what he looks like, and I'll show you the fishbowl and cape. The cape actually has a lot of nice detail on the inside. There's actually like sculpted texture in there, so hopefully you guys can see that in the light now. But yeah, he's got like these kind of almost looks like Wi-Fi router symbols, you know, like you know, the little satellite kind of like you know, like you're getting connection for Wi-Fi. It looks like a bunch of those just kind of sculpted inside of his cape. But yeah, that does look really cool. Nice texture to it. Obviously, you know, a wired cape would be better for this guy when it comes to posing, but being that this is a sculpted, you know, plastic cape, it does have a really nice sculpt to it. I do like, you know, all the wrinkling going on inside. Really does look very nice, very realistic. And yeah, you can see as it like comes up and curves over his shoulders there. You got some nice paint work for the you know, those golden eye clasp at the end of his cape there. This one, a little bit of paint bleed. We got some of that kind of maroon color coming onto the edge of this clasp, but you know, that's not great. But the other one seems to not really have that problem too much. I mean, there's a little bit of bleeding at the top there. You can see some of that maroon kind of coming onto the edge of the clasp, but not bad. The fishbowl itself looks pretty cool. It's done in like a pearlescent kind of like dirty white color. Not very translucent, like you can't see through it at all, but it does look really cool. So I like that, you know. Definitely, you know, this isn't one of those figures where you can like see. I think the Toy Biz figure from back in the day, that one you could actually like see Quentin's head underneath the bowl, which is, you know, I thought that was pretty cool, but definitely like not the most realistic, because, you know, Mysterio's not really trying to reveal his identity so easily. So I think this is definitely like the better, like the more classic way to go. You know, not being able to see through the fishbowl, but yeah, it does have some nice paint applications, a nice kind of pearlescent sheen to it. And just here's a look at the back of the cape, so you can see that. Mine also does have this ugly little paint scuff. Not sure how that happened. I think that happened like straight out of the box. It's kind of similar to what I had going on with that Superman, that Mattel Superman figure. Weird spots on the cape there, but yeah, really nice again sculpting for the wrinkles and the way the cape drapes in the back. Very nicely done. So yeah, overall looks really good, man. I think, I don't know if it's shadows, or I want to say there's also some shading going on like in the cape. Like I don't think it's just the lighting. I think there actually is a bit of like shading. Maybe it could be airbrush shading or dry brush, I don't know, but it does seem like there's some shading going on in these, especially in the upper part of this cape, and the wrinkles to kind of help that pop. So I really do like that. Really gives the cape some nice depth, which is really good. But yeah, let's go ahead and put the fishbowl and cape back on him real quick. So yeah, bringing Mysterio back in. So yeah, one of the major issues is really just the setup of the cape and the fishbowl on him. So as you can see, again, it has like that peg in the back. So when you, like, if you don't have the peg plugged into him, the cape does sit more flush on him from the front at least. So like now it kind of looks like, you know, the clasp are like resting on his chest, which is how he should look. But if you go ahead and plug, you know, the problem with that is if you don't plug in the peg from the back, obviously the cape is going to be very loose, because the way they did this, they didn't sculpt the inside of the you know, the bowl to fit over his head, you know, Quentin's head. at least not in like a good way, like not to where it's tight or anything. It's literally just like a hollowed out, empty hole in there. So when you slide it over his head, it's just gonna be like pretty much completely loose. It's gonna like flop around and just be loose all over the place. So that's a little frustrating, especially when you're trying to like hold the figure and like pose him and stuff. The cape is just gonna be like all over the place. There's nothing to really hold it in place. So yeah, I mean, with the exception of that peg. So if you plug in the peg to like the back of him, let me see if I can, which is kind of tricky because you gotta like get back there and look to make sure it's actually going in. But yeah, if you get the peg into his back, like so, now you have the problem to where his cape is not laying down to his chest. So like from the side, it looks really weird. It's like his cape is just floating above him, which, I mean, I guess isn't too bad since he's Mysterio, right? So maybe he's, using magic or some kind of illusion to make his cape float. But from the front, it's definitely noticeable. I mean, I don't know how well you guys are able to notice it on camera, but in person, like, you can definitely tell that his cape isn't laying down on his chest, and it looks really weird from the front. I feel like on camera it doesn't look as weird as it does in person, but trust me, it definitely has a weird look that it's not like laying down flat to his chest. So, if it was flush, it would look a lot better. But because of that peg, yeah, it's kind of a weird setup. So just want you to be aware of that. That's probably one of the most frustrating things about this figure is like, yeah, when you're trying to pick him up and pose him and whatnot, the cape is just kind of all over the place unless you have that peg in there. And when you do have the peg in, it just looks kind of weird when he's, in a standing pose because it's not laying down to him like it should. So yeah, I think that could have been designed a lot better. Obviously, Hasbro's not going to give us any like wired capes or anything like that. But it would have been nice with a wired cape because I think that would have fixed a lot of the issues going on here, like with the fishbowl being very loose, like over the head, and just kind of swinging around everywhere with the cape. Yeah, so that's one of like the most annoying things about this guy. Not only that, obviously that makes him pretty top heavy, right? Like the fishbowl and the cape as like one piece. Not only that, but the feet are designed like kind of bad so that you have a lot of gappage, almost like the same thing going on with the head. You have a lot of gap going on down here between the the shin and the boot. And so, not only is that like an ugly design, but that kind of like defeats his stability in the feet and the legs, which makes him, more prone to falling over because he's got so much gap in between, the hinge and the foot that he's got a lot of space to kind of, just fall over. There's not a lot of stabilization. If they had like more plastic down here to kind of like cover this up and like wrap around the shin, it would definitely help him, I think, stand a lot better. But since they left such a big gap in there, he's very prone to just, easily falling over. I mean, you can get him to stand, but see like that, he just almost immediately wants to fall over because he's got so much weight up top and the feet are so weak, at the ankles and whatnot. They're not really built to support his weight, so that's unfortunate. But I found that, kind of getting like a wider stance definitely helps him to stand up better. But yeah, if you're thinking about putting this guy on like a rotating display stand, I mean, just forget about it, bro, because he's probably not even going to get a full rotation. I mean, you guys saw at the beginning of the review, he fell like almost immediately. So yeah, just be aware of that. So yeah, those are probably like my biggest gripes about the figure is really the design of the feet and the cape and fishbowl, like how it attaches to him. Had it been flush and like was it able to like move around better, it would have been a much better figure. And yeah, just the way they did those feet, man. I mean, thankfully he's got kind of big feet to, which helps support his weight, but the way they left such a big gap in between like the ankle and the hinge is just really bad. So yeah, that could have been a lot better. But all that being said, I just want to mention also, one of the things that kind of like balances that out, I found, is that if you take off the fishbowl and the cape, right, and you actually take off his Quentin head underneath, Mr. Quentin Beck, if you pop this off and actually just put the fishbowl like on top without the head underneath, it kind of like balances it out. I feel like when because it goes down further, I guess, without the head, in the way, and it kind of sits a little more flush on him. Even like, and I feel like it also makes it a little bit easier for the peg to just kind of like, go into the back without you having to like put it in yourself. So that kind of fixes that problem a little bit. I mean, it is still going to be loose, especially now that there's like no head up there to stop it. So it is going to kind of like wiggle all over the place. But, at least in like a neutral pose, it looks a lot better, I feel like. It's a lot closer to his chest now. And from the back, like the overall, it just looks more flush overall. So that is one of the things I noticed. I might actually do that. Like I might just leave the Quentin head off and just have this on top. And I think that might actually fix up a lot of the issues. But yeah, that's just something to mention. But yeah, so all that being said, let's get into his articulation. So like with this on, right, he can lift his arms. He's on a ball and hinge shoulder, so he can lift the arms about that much. A little better than 90 degrees, which is nice. Out to the side. All right, so he's got that. Obviously back down by his sides. His cape is obviously going to, impede him from swinging the arm all the way back. But if you take it off, just to demonstrate that, obviously you can windmill it all the way around. He is on like, basic Marvel Legends style body as far as like the engineering. So you can get a full 360 in there. You do have your bicep swivel in there. Bicep swivel cut, so he does get a nice swivel in the biceps. He's got double jointed elbows, which let him get a pretty deep bend. Obviously, this giant forearm gauntlet thing is going to get in the way a bit. It's going to impede the articulation just a bit, but he still is able to get a pretty deep crunch, and the elbow itself looks pretty good, not too ugly. It's a nice hollowed out, no pieces sticking out weird or anything, so that's nice. All right, so double jointed elbows, and then you've got swivel and hinge for the hands. Let's see, you've got looks like horizontal hinges for the hands, so they're gonna go in and away from the body. I mean, you can swivel them up, if you want them going up and down, you can also kind of do that. So it really just depends on which way you have the hinge facing, which way you orient the hinge as far as the direction that his hands are going to go. But yeah, that's some nice articulation. And for the torso, you've got this outdated, ab crunch joint. So he's only going to be able to crunch forward about that far, which isn't much. But I mean, if you combine it with if you get him from like the lower waist and push him forward, you can get him crunching, bending forward that far, which is nice. You like hold onto the legs and push from down there. You can get him crunching forward that much. And then for just the ab crunch, for crunching back, he goes a few notches back. Not a whole lot of range, but it's something. And you can you really can't. The lower waist doesn't really help as far as going back. I mean, that's about as far as he's going to go. So you're not really getting any additional range trying to use that lower part. But yeah, there's that. He does have at least, a waist twist, but it does leave like the ugly gaps from the side. So like right there, you can see that huge gap in between his waist and the torso as you twist him. But, at least he gets that turning side to side. And that's one of the things about Mysterio is that, he kind of needs, waist articulation or like diaphragm articulation. Obviously this would have been a lot better with the double ball peg setup, so that he could lean side, because as is he can't get any leaning side to side with this stiff ab crunch joint. But had it been like a double ball peg setup, you could really get him to like lean and swivel and all that. But yeah, the thing about him is that when he's got the fishbowl on, you can never really tell what direction he's like looking in. So like if you weren't able to swivel the body like side to side, you'd never be able to tell that he's like turning his head like one way. So that's kind of like the trick with Mysterio. So he definitely needs to be able to like turn his body, so it looks like it gives the illusion that he's turning his head. But yeah, just wanted to mention that. And let's see what else. Yeah, arms come forward and across the body decently, if you get the hinge facing forward. They're not gonna like get a whole bunch of cross motion across the chest, but you can kind of fudge it if you bend the elbows to make it look like he's crossing a little more. And then same thing going back. He doesn't have any butterfly joints or anything like that, but you know, you can get some decent range going behind his back as well. All right. And for the legs, you can kick up, straight and out. You get almost a perfect 90 degrees. Kicks back only about that far before hitting the sculpt. You do have a thigh swivel cut, and it is like perfectly blended in with like the rest of this grid pattern, because you know he's already got like lines going across his legs. So yeah, that blends in like seamlessly, and it looks great. You got a thigh swivel cut in there, very, very nice, seamless. And you've got double jointed knees, which allow that much bend going back. So that's great. Out to the side, he gets close to a perfect splits. Not quite, a little bit shy, but you know, not bad looking. And you have a swivel in the ankle pivot, so that looks good. You do have boot rotation, right? So you can actually swivel at the shins. These gold pieces do rotate side to side. And you have a hinge that can go all the way down basically to the tippy toe and can hinge up only about that far. So a little bit limited going up, but it is what it is. And yeah, so that's your articulation. Pretty, you know, decent standard stuff for Marvel Legends articulation. I'm gonna go ahead and just put the head back on for the sake of the review. Pop the Quentin head back on there. Man, that thing is bad. The way they designed it, it's way too gappy. But yeah, and then I'll put the fishbowl back on top. Get it slide down. There we go. All right, so there's your Mysterio. I'm gonna put him aside just for a second because I realized we haven't shown the accessories yet. Here is his accessories. He only comes with two. He's got these kind of effects pieces that look pretty dope, you know. Done in that kind of like light blue translucent color, very similar to like his head underneath. And it actually, you know, these are nice. I didn't realize that at first I thought these were just like smoke effects or whatever, but there's actually like little creatures and things. If you look inside, like you see like the tail of something forming right there, like some kind of creature. So that's actually pretty cool. I didn't really realize that until, you know, I got the figure in hand, but that's pretty cool. So there's like some stuff forming inside of that smoke. And you can put these like over his hands and whatnot. I'll have some pictures of that so that you guys can see that later on. But yeah, so that's one of his effects. And then the other one, which I would argue is like the nicer one, would be this one. It's kind of like, looks like there's like an octopus tentacle or something forming in there. Yeah, forming inside the smoke. So that looks pretty cool as well. Done in that same plastic, same color. And it's even got like a little bit of like a glittery, like some, I think, yeah, like some like glitter in there or whatever to make certain parts of it shine a little better. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And I apologize about the lighting. There's overcast today, not the best natural light, but hopefully you guys can make out the details in this. These are some pretty nice effects pieces. And yeah, that's pretty much all he comes with. It would have been nice for him to come with some alternate hands, like some fist hands or something to change out. I think every character should have fist hands, you know, that should be pretty standard, but at least he does have these, you know, kind of magic looking wielding hands, you know, on him straight out the package, so that's cool. But yeah, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons before we run out of time here. Alright, so hopefully he doesn't fall. But yeah, I'm gonna put him right there. Let's brighten things up a little bit here. Okay. Alright, so first comparison we'll do. Green Goblin goes falling. Here is the Toy Biz Spider-Man 1 figure, movie figure, and since he wanted to, you know, get some airtime, here we got Green Goblin from the Spider-Man 1 movie. Alright, so let me back these guys up. Oh, and there goes Mysterio falling, but let's see if I can get him standing without being a klutz. Oh, and there goes Green Goblin. Everybody's falling today. Oh, man. Alright. Let's try to get this guy back up here. This Green Goblin always had some kind of wonky legs as well, but yeah, there you go. There's your size comparison, and yeah, you can see they stack up pretty well. Green Goblin's just a little bit shorter than Mysterio. Like from the top, at the top of his bowl, he is actually a little bit taller. Spider-Man's a little bit smaller, so yeah, there you go. I think that works out. Here he is with the Maximum Spider-Man and the Marvel Legends Retro Card Tombstone. And yeah, that looks pretty good. Tombstone's got quite a bit of height over Mysterio. Spider-Man is around the same as Mysterio, maybe just a little bit shorter. So I think that works out pretty well. And for Black Series, we have Balin Skull from Ahsoka. And SH Figure Arts, we got Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah, I think that's pretty good there. Liking how that looks. And we'll bring in the Toy Biz Green Goblin from the Sinister Six 5-pack. And we'll bring in a Mafex Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man 2 right there. Alright, and yeah, they all stack up pretty nice. I think that looks good. Alright, and here's a Mattel comparison with the Movie Masters Scarecrow from the Batman Begins. And here is a MCU MJ from Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming. And I think those look pretty decent. Alright. Cool. And we'll bring in a retro card Peter Parker Marvel Legends. This is a custom head. I'll talk more about this head on the channel a little bit later on, but this is a custom Peter Parker head that I got from someone on Instagram. And here's a Fortnite Dire the Wolf by, I believe, McFarlane Toys. And so you can see them together. Dire's definitely got some height over Mysterio, and Peter